Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. Back to my YouTube channel. All I can say is that I'm a different person now than, like, the likelihood that you've watched a video before is pretty small because no one really did before. I used to post YouTube videos on and off from when I was, I think, 17, 18 until, I was 22, and that's when the the global event that we all recently lived through, when that happened. Yeah, and I was recently married, which was great, but then also like got shut down like 9 months in. So then our social life was just kind of non-existent. I was already struggling. I don't know. Um, and so I had really picked up kind of the YouTube thing again, and then yeah, like a month or so into the pandemic, I just like dropped it all. I kind of knew, and I'd been consistent for a while. And I was like, dang, am I really dropping this? And I had that like dissonance in my head of like, I know that this is like the last, like when I was like filming my last video that I never actually posted. It was like a Chloe Ting ab workout challenge. I like somehow knew, I'm like, this is not gonna post, and I'm just gonna fall off of YouTube for a while. And I had like gotten a few thousand views on like a video for shaving my head, and I had been like doing weird eyebrows. I shaved my eyebrows off too. Indications I was struggling mentally. And I had some trauma that I was processing that I'm not completely through yet, but more than I was, and that's great. And I've just really been feeling this urge to start doing YouTube again, and I don't know what it's gonna look like, but all I know is that I used to feel like I was kind of like struggling for content, or I was just like doing what everyone else was doing, yada yada yada, like, and like I don't know, there wasn't anything actually interesting about my life yet. But now that it has been over 3 years, I recently turned 26. I'm a person now, and I have thoughts and feelings, convictions, a child. A lot has changed. Yeah, and so I don't really know where to start, other than the typical cringe life update, basically. So this is where I'm at, recently turning 26. I have a baby napping in the other room. Baby, toddler, we're in between right now. She's almost 18 months old. That whole birth story, becoming a mother, matrescence, everything for me, very critical to like my formation of self. Absolutely. And I like went through this time of just like wanting to be like completely kind of typical medicalized birth, like I don't want to feel it, I don't want to feel anything, like just numb me out, to embracing everything and being like, actually I want to do natural birth, and I want to learn how to transform things and mindset shift, and just, yeah. So I have a lot of stuff that I can talk about there. And I ended up switching from OB care to midwife care, still at a hospital, and yeah, and it was pretty good, but definitely still some, like, not every birth story is perfect, and so there were things that then sparked me to become a doula, and so I trained for that earlier this year. So those have been like major shifts in my life. Also, while I was pregnant, I quit my job going into the third trimester because I was blessed to be able to stay home. I already was home, had been home for a couple of years at that point. Everyone had been, and I was, but I quit my job because I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and be able to like relax the last trimester of pregnancy before hitting motherhood like a ton of bricks, which it did. Went through some postpartum depression, wildness, ended up leading to bed sharing, and also I do like elimination communication, not because of the postpartum stuff, but just like a lot of stuff that I got into as a mother, of like being intuitive with my baby and communicating, and it's just really cool. Have a lot of things I want to get into with regards to those. Yeah, so that's been like the biggest shift for sure. I listed some other things. I was just journaling of just like how I've changed, because like also at the time that I was posting those last videos and as we were going into the pandemic, I signed up for some like teletherapy and had like both a therapist and a psychiatrist through it, and so I was trying out different medications. That's part of why I think stopped YouTube completely, was because I was like on and off, and they really gave me some nasty side effects, and I was like I was just in a place that I was like looking for anything that would help, basically. And I had heard so many good things about medication. I had been on Zoloft before, from like high school into early college, and it kind of just made me feel awful and didn't like fix anything. And then my psychiatrist like retired and didn't leave me a follow-up person, so I just like stopped taking it. And yeah, so then I was kind of back to like, oh, maybe medication, big pharma can like solve my issues. I think I tried at least like 7 different prescriptions, and several of them just made my symptoms immediately absolutely worse. Like, and yeah, it was really scary, rough time for a few months. And this was like before pregnancy. And then like finally, like at the end of 2020, we bought a house, which was cool. Basically because of me working, my like salary for the year basically ended up being the down payment, or like for the 2 years I had worked so far, it ended up basically being the down payment for the house. 1 year? I don't know. Whatever it was. And enabled that. And so we bought a house, which was cool. And then I think that helped me stabilize some things a bit, because I was also getting into gardening, and then I had some more space to work on things. So I was feeling better. The medication was like working enough to have me feeling stable, although I was very fuzzy, in and out. And I'll go into another video, I'll like kind of go through my history of diagnoses and things, but that's way too much for this one. But trying the different medications, eventually, yeah, got to a level where it was fine, and I like felt really fuzzy, and I had a hard time like keeping words in my head, and I knew I wanted to go off them soon, and that just happened to coincide with the time that I got my IUD out and then got pregnant. And then like, yeah, once the pregnancy was confirmed, I was like, okay, yeah, I definitely want to be tapering off of the medications. And so I did, because none of them were really super compatible with pregnancy. Again, I had tried a lot. I tried the safer ones already, and they didn't work for me. None of them really did in the end, but I don't know. That's another video. Yeah, got pregnant, went on a whole thing, and yeah, so that chapter kind of closed, fortunately, like from big pharma into pregnancy. And then yeah, I had a intervention-free natural birth in the hospital. I have since had 2 miscarriages from unintended pregnancies, not unwanted but unintended, and those were rough. But I think yeah, that's also probably another video. Has really just deepened me as a person, and almost, may sound ridiculous, but like I have like some sense of authority over life just because of like those experiences. I don't know. Yeah, and it's definitely like, I think, grown me as a doula too, because then I have a lot more space and like empathy for loss situations, which like are always hard, and yeah, but it definitely has grown me. Yeah, other things I have listed in here, I have been diagnosed with Asperger's technically. The like therapist I was seeing through the telehealth, she had like diagnosed some people before, and like yeah, the diagnostic criterion had changed, but she had like an old like diagnosis like test battery from when it was still classified as Asperger's, and I, based on that criteria, I was diagnosed. Um, so that explained a lot of things about me as a person, and like enabled me to start unpacking and like breaking down a lot of aspects of how I operate and function as a human in the world differently than other people that I've noticed. Yeah, so that was also a big part of that whole life shift change, understanding that. Yeah, I quit my career. I trained as a drill. Like I've grown some gardens. I've baked bread. I got really into baking sourdough bread. Well, kind of right after I quit my job, I started a sourdough starter because my husband had tried and not been super successful before. And finally, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put a hand to it since I actually enjoy baking, and can keep track of it. And so far, it's been alive. So that's impressive to me. And I've gone through over 100 pounds of flour. It's been great. And now I even like mill my own wheat because I'm that level of baker, I guess. Um, Still not that experienced. I just can do some of it. We've raised chicks from chick to pullets. They're about to start laying. They're in the backyard. I'm basically a urban homesteader right now, and hopefully that will be upgraded to more land somewhere eventually. But for right now, we're on like 6,500 square feet in unincorporated San Jose. And what else? Yeah, I've healed trauma, like I mentioned. I've resolved communication issues and gotten through a lot of like stuff in marriage. I have gotten a baby to diaper free at 15 months old, doing elimination communication. I have like a lot of motherhood advice. I was able to exclusively breastfeed. I still am exclusive. No, I'm not exclusively breastfeeding. We did baby-led weaning. So, yeah, baby-led weaning experience, exclusive breastfeeding experience, still, I guess, extended nursing, even though she's not even 2 yet. Like a toddler now. And she's never really used a pacifier or had a bottle, which is unusual, I guess. Oh yeah, and we bed share, and that kind of goes with all those other things I mentioned. If you know anything about parenting, it you probably expected that one. So yeah, I kind of have experience in life stuff now. Like I find myself, I used to just like scroll the Facebook mom groups, like taking in information, and like even though my baby wouldn't be having those problems they would discuss, or maybe she would be, like I would just like read all the comments, but usually never like interact with anything. But now that I have a 17-month-old, I'm the one who's commenting, giving advice to people, and it's fun. But also I think it's going to be more effective if I just start containing it into YouTube videos, especially as I enter into the birth work world. Not that I want to cloud my birth work with my personal parenting opinions, but it all kind of does go together, you know. So yeah, I'm a doula now. My hopes with that are to honestly, I'm feeling called to work outside the system. I'd like to train as like a traditional midwife, birth attendant, birth keeper, whatever you want to call someone who's not licensed, but wants to deliver babies. Sounds super sketchy. Yeah, part of my growing up and maturing is that I now have a lot of oddly specific convictions about some things, for a whole host of reasons. And again, that's too much for this video, but I feel like that's been a pretty good life update. But all of that being said, like, the most important development in my entire life, kind of like setting the best for last, and this will also deserve its own video at some point, but I do want to mention it here, is that I finally read through the Bible. I read through the entire Bible with my husband, who's a God-fearing man, and we both have backgrounds in biblical studies. We both have minors in it from college. We both grew up kind of in the church. I mean, definitely in the church. Like, both our dads like played in the worship bands growing up consistently, and yeah, but there were still things that were not communicated correctly or clearly or whatever, and a lot of things that just like kids can't quite understand, although kids can understand more than you think. There were a lot of things that were, I think, miscommunicated to me personally, and to James some as well. And so now, as we've become adults and we've graduated and we've become parents, during basically just the first year of our child's life, we read through the Bible together, and it was awesome. And we discussed it, and we asked questions, and we researched the original languages, and we just like did, and you don't have to do all of it to that degree, but we just got really into things, and it absolutely confirmed, exploded, expanded my faith beyond what I ever thought. And like, I was always ashamed before to like call myself a Christian or be like, oh, Jesus like means so much to me. Like, felt like I was supposed to be able to say those things, but I never felt like I could, and so I just didn't. It didn't feel like my place to be saying them, even though like I felt like I believed it. I didn't really understand, and so I didn't want to lay claim to anything that I didn't feel I understood, and so I didn't. But now I can genuinely say that I believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and that he has sent the Holy Spirit, and that Jesus himself was incarnated, born of a virgin, was crucified and died and was buried and rose again, and he ascended to heaven and is seated at the right hand of God the Father Almighty. There's just so Jesus is awesome, and it's so relieving to finally like declare it on camera as well. And yeah, so I have a lot of thoughts with that now that I've actually read through the Bible, which it took me 25 years to finally do, but I did it. And I'm very, very glad I did. I would encourage you to. There are a lot of good plans to take you through the Bible over the course of a year in the Bible app. Yeah, and discuss it with someone. Don't just do it alone, because I mean, every time I tried to read the Bible alone before, I would get distracted and kind of drop off of it after a few days or a week or whatever. But actually having the accountability of someone to discuss it with was very important. So yeah, that's what I want to end with, because that's the most important thing. Over the next couple months, I'll get into a rhythm of recording and editing and uploading again, but I don't want to commit to anything because I don't want to burn out. So yeah, thank you for watching and getting to know me. I'll see you next time. Bye. Oh, I should sign off with something. Blessings to you. There you go.